Hi, Jamie with UK Extension, and today we're in the garden talking about peonies, or peonies, whichever you prefer. Technically peony with a long O is correct. Call them whatever you want. My grandmother used pionies. It works just fine. We're here with a nice blooming clump, and we're going to tell you a little bit about these amazing historical Kentucky favorites. They were probably some of the first perennials to arrive in this newly settled land because people valued them that much. So these were must take with you on the journey perennials, and you can see why. This is a lovely newer variety called Coral Charm. We don't see too many of these corally pinks and these salmon shades in peonies. You also need to be aware there's three main types of peonies, and now many hybrid forms entering the market. Both the Japanese and Chinese peonies are very similar, and they're often used interchangeably. The tree peonies are a different animal that are actually woody, have larger flowers in a wide variety of colors that you may not find here. There are purples and some other things. And then there are the new Ito hybrids that are actually crosses between those woody tree peonies and these herbaceous perennials. Herbaceous just means they die completely to the ground. So a couple of things about peonies that are specific to the genus. One, it's not generally much more than a cosmetic issue, but they are very disease prone, particularly if they become crowded or are grown like at my house. My peonies are surrounded by other perennials. They don't get good air circulation, and anytime things are crowded and don't dry out well after a rain, we invite disease problems. It's not necessarily something we can control. There are some sprays, and I'll talk about that. This one is just beginning to show some pretty severe signs of the various leaf spots and blights peonies get. This is minor. I have seen entire leaves become reddish purple with disease, and it's not end of the world, because unless the whole leaf is actually brown and crunchy, the green portions are still producing food. We don't want to cut this back prematurely in the summer or fall, even after the flowers are spent. It's good to take these faded flowers off down to a good size leaf. This would be better with pruners for a cleaner cut. It's okay to remove the seed heads, but don't take the foliage down. Just like bulb foliage, this has to feed the plant to build the strength for next year. So if you've had serious problems, and we all have because of our rainfall patterns, heavy rains promote this disease, you can spray a fungicide in the spring as they first emerge, and a couple more times to try to head this off. Generally, if you'll just clean up well in the fall, cut all this down, get it out of there, and if it's real bad, maybe even replace the mulch. That'll go a long way to keeping your peonies healthy. Be aware there are thousands of peony varieties available in the market. They're not all created equal. Some of the older varieties have weak stems that want to fall and flop. We've all had our peonies laying on the ground after a heavy rain. The single forms and these single or semi-double that have less petal tissue don't catch as much water. They don't flop as bad. But there's a negative to that as well. These looser petals have an easier time falling off and shattering from the plant as they fade. The doubles are packed so tightly they have trouble shedding, so they tend to last longer in the garden, but with that increased weight and size comes more flopping. Look for varieties that are known to have short, stronger stems. There's early, mid, and late. Select things that bloom in each season for a great garden. Try to keep them out in full sun. If these were a little further apart, there are three here, you would probably have fewer disease problems. We frequently get calls about ants on peony buds. In fact, ants on almost anything other than your kitchen counter are not generally problems. Ants typically show up for other reasons. In the case of peonies, when the buds reach this stage, they typically have some little drops of sticky, sugary sap. The ants are just there for the sap. There's a lot of old wives' tales that peony buds won't open, unless there's ants present. Some people think the ants are stopping them from opening, but a more common problem is botrytis or some disease issues that actually blacken buds until the disease prevents that bud from developing. These are not great examples. They'll probably go ahead and open, but this can get bad enough that that flower fails. And it's a disease issue, not an ant issue. So I hope this has helped you learn more about peonies. Plant some in your garden. They are long-term perennial plants. They prefer not to be moved once established. They don't like root disturbance. And the roots are large, woody, fleshy structures that should be divided when you must divide a peony, which is rare. Usually you're only going to divide to share or make more. When you do that, dig a huge clump. Be very careful. It needs to occur in August or the very earliest part of September, and put them back in the ground. The planting will, or the clump of root will have some noticeable pink or white eyes, and those need to be no more than 1 inch below the soil depth. If you get them too deep, you may get a blind plant or a plant that fails to bloom. If you don't have a yard full of peonies already, I hope you'll acquire some and plant them. They're one of the easiest, most rewarding perennials to grow. They are also one of the longest lived perennials. And other than some minor disease problems, they're pretty nice. Foliage looks wonderful even after the blooms are gone. So give them a try. They look great with other spring blooming perennials. Try some in your garden.